So we're finding ourselves here again. And this time around, we're going to be talking about I'm not my parents' pension.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of West African kids, adults, young adults can like sort of relate to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, what does it mean to you? I'm not my parents' pension.
I think it means the opposite to me.
Okay.
I am my parents' pension. And I've been told from young that I was going to be my parents' pension. And so I think obviously what I guess what the connotation is trying to say is that, you know, our parents should have enough money to support themselves in their retirement, and that we obviously have children and our focus should be on ourselves and not still having to give money to them. But the likelihood is that for most of our parents, that's just not going to be the case, and we're going to have to support them.
Yeah, do you know, it's crazy because I know there are a lot of people who are sort of like in that baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
They don't really have a pension set up. So in their minds, you know, they thought they would instill the right sort of discipline, mindset and all that kind of stuff so their kids could sort of set themselves up in the future.
Yeah.
But do you think that sort of like restricts maybe a young adult or a child from actually sort of like achieving certain things they want to achieve?
Definitely. It's definitely a holdback. I always tell people that, you know, Billy in Leeds is not sending money home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not sending money home to Bradford or sending money to London. Like, he can make his money and focus on himself. Whereas Babatunde in London is sending money back to Nige, parents here, maybe aunties as uncles as well.
Of course.
And so that income is split up so many different ways, so many different times. It becomes, you can't move at the same rate and the same pace. And as you know, the cost of everything is going up.
More expensive. So what's sort of like the balance? Because in my mind, I'm thinking about the young Ola or whoever it is trying to sort of become, I don't know, really sort of acclaimed within the corporate world or even in the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah.
But then Auntie Grace is saying, you know, Ola needs to make sure that she contributes £500 a month to whatever it is. Like, how do you see the balance? Like, do you think there should be a contribution? And if not, do you feel like there should be no contribution at all?
I think there has to be a contribution.
Yeah,
I think our parents have done a lot for us, and a lot of us are first generation here. So our parents have come a long way, and they've given us what they can.
Of course.
And I think if you see that, you know, your parent needs that support, then definitely give it to them. I think it has to be for a time, and I think this is where conversation has to be in regards to having that conversation with your parents, having that open communication channel to be able to explain your situation and what you're trying to do. So what I see with a lot of the clients that I see now is that we're having to go back to the parents and say, look, I was paying $500 before, but now I've got a savings plan to buy a house. In my plan, I can afford $200. Are you okay to accept that? And most parents, if they can see that you're using that money to better yourself, they'll take that hit if they can afford to. They'll do that.
Are you sure most parents are like that?
I think they will. I think it's in parents' nature to want the best for your child.
I think there's assumptions being made there, because I've heard many stories where you know, rain or shine, that person needs to make sure they contribute X amount of monies regardless. You know, and I think that don't get me wrong, there are definitely parents like that, but there are some parents who have a very sort of like selfish mentality, and in their minds, you were bred really to sort of be an extra income stream. You know, I've heard some situations where friends have told me where I think he was living with his dad or whatever it was, and all of a sudden he just up and left, but he still needed to contribute towards the bills and towards the person who went back to Nigeria or whatever it was. So there are some instances where I feel like some parents are wicked because...
Wow.
No, you have to say that. It's a wickedness. And I say that on purpose. I'm trying to be careful, but I'm trying not to be careful at the same time.
Yeah.
The wickedness comes from the fact that, like you said, there's a balance.
Yeah.
You need to have that conversation and that communication where you do contribute. I think you definitely have to contribute. But at the same time, there has to be enough creative money for you to use it how you need to use it for in the future. But if you don't even have any creative money, then you're just there. Like, how are you supposed to sort of like shift towards renting or buying or whatever else that you want to do?
I hear you, but if it's needed, it can't be wicked.
Define what needed is.
As in, if the household needs it, if without your contribution, we can't pay bills, and you're here.
But that's different though.
Part of it.
That's different because there's the parent and then there's the family.
Yeah.
So if it's a family thing, I can understand. Like if everyone depends on your income, that's perfectly understandable. But if it's the parent just trying to rake your money so they can use it for other stuff, X, Y, and Z, just so they know they got an additional income coming in, that's where the wickedness for me comes in, if that makes sense.
I hear you.
But I hear what you're saying. Sorry, I think there was a different sort of like crossing lines there. But yeah, there's a fine balance. I just feel like the person needs to have creative money available.
Yeah.
You know, because if you don't have that available, then you're going to be in a situation where you're in your 30s, 40s, or even 50s potentially. You haven't moved out, you haven't done what you needed to do as a man, as a woman, because you're stuck and imprisoned. There are a lot of people within at least the millennial generation who feel imprisoned because, again, they feel like they don't have enough creative money to sort of like, I don't want to say escape because I think that's the wrong sort of term, but do what they need to do. Now, there is a responsibility they need to bear in terms of managing their budgets, X, Y, and Z, but there are some sort of pressures, at least within the community, where it's almost like rain or shine, this is the amount that you have to sort of like contribute.
Yeah.
And they may even instill some sort of fear factor, because there are a lot of parents who were feared by their children just based on the way they've sort of like disciplined them and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what comes to mind when I think about parents' pension and all this kind of stuff.
I hear you. I just think, to me, when it comes to contributing your parents and so forth, I think sometimes as well it's a motivation. For me, I felt like I couldn't wait to give back to my parents. I couldn't wait to put money in my mum's pocket because I knew what she done for me. I remember when I was young and I wanted to go to basketball camp because I used to play basketball.
Of course.
And my dad, he's a Nigerian accountant.
Yeah.
There's no basketball camp. There's no money to spend on sport. Sport is fake.
Of course.
It's just having fun. But my mum knew how important it was to me, and somehow she managed to make money available. And I remember it was like I think it was like £120 or something like that. But those times, that's a big amount of money.
Of course.
And she made it available to me, and I said to myself, I can't wait till I can make money, so I can put money in my mum's pocket, and I can look after her and I can support her. And I felt like that made me want to work harder.
Of course.
Because I knew that to support my mum the way I wanted to, earning 10 grand or 15 grand wasn't going to be enough. And so I knew I needed a certain level of job or a certain caliber of job to be able to support my mum in the way I wanted to. And that drove me, I feel, past a lot of my peers who could relax and didn't have that. So sometimes it can work in your favour.
And I think that's another sort of good point to see, because I've always said this, within at least our community, because of I want to call it sort of the hardship environment that we've been brought into.
Definitely.
It can either sort of make you extremely successful or extremely depressed, And if you use that motivation or adversity as a point to sort of push you forward, then exactly what you're saying is definitely going to happen, sort of thing. I just want to see the sort of like counterbalance. So we've got one argument that's like, okay, it could be depressive, it could restrict you, it could hold you back. And there's another argument that says, actually, it could be motivating. So I guess with this, are we saying it comes down to perspective, or is it a bit more than just perspective?
I just think it's our reality. I think a lot of us are trying to be footballers or sports stars or rappers because we feel that that's the life that can get us the money we want to live. Whereas I feel a lot of other communities, they don't have that pressure to want to be a footballer or they don't need to make it like that. Their parents have put things in place. There are assets in place to take care of them. There are income generating assets that mean that they can choose the career that they want to choose and not have to worry about money. There are things that their parents have put in place. So when it comes to finding a deposit for a house, it doesn't bother them. They don't have to be concerned about that. When it comes to buying your first car, they don't have to be concerned about that. And so by taking those pressures off their child is now free. Whereas we know when it comes to our turn, everything we want is on us. And so we have to work harder.
But I guess that was my point from the beginning. Like, we have to work harder, but not everyone has the sort of like mental fortitude to actually overcome some of those things, because not everyone's the same. It's all well and good to say, it should motivate you and everything else. I think for people like us, it's a bit different. We have that. I would like to believe, at least, we have that mindset where we're driven by it. But again, we're human. But at the same time, not everyone is put in that position,
Yeah.
or not everyone can see the God-given talents that they've been given to sort of convert that money into something else.
Okay.
Whether that's entrepreneurial or whether that's in the corporate world.
Sure.
So for those people, what does that look like? Is it the fault of their parents? Like, some people really feel imprisoned and trapped, and I've had conversations with people who feel that way, because they can't really see a way out. The way I see it for those people is they have to have an honest and truthful conversation with their parents, and it's almost like for some parents, because they're so set in their ways, it could be a point. It could be a breaking point for them, or it could be a moment where it defines their relationship, so to speak. You know,
I feel that, and I feel that is the case for a lot of people. But at the same time, what can the parent do? If I'm a single mother and I'm working 2 jobs, but the living in London, the benefits that I get, and we've seen benefits have been cut. We see that inflation is taking up, it's going up and up. The cost of living is rising. If I'm a parent doing all that I can do, then what more can I do other than ask you to support me if you got 2 hands and 2 feet and you can do so?
I think the supporting thing's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with supporting, but to what extent do you support? To what extent do you support where it becomes at the detriment of your future as well?
Yeah,
that's the fine balance.
I hear you, but then a lot of people will say, "Oh, yeah." Let's say, for example, people say, "Oh, I don't know, £500 is too much."
Yeah.
But when you're paying rent, 1,200.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So,
but it comes to context.
You're living in a house.
Yeah.
There's electricity. There's gas.
Yeah.
You've got a room.
Yeah.
You've got Wi-Fi when you switch it on.
Yeah.
If you were to really monetize your cost in the house.
Yeah.
It's gonna be around that amount. But for you think it's too big because you're giving it to your parents.
Okay.
But you're happy to pay double that for your own space and own it.
Okay, so that comes to the assumption that you have that money. So it only comes into context based on the amount you're making and what that looks like net. So if you're only making, let's say, I don't know, only £800 a month because you don't really have a great job for whatever reason, and some people are in that position.
Yeah.
£500 is a lot of money.
Definitely.
It is a lot of money.
Definitely.
If you're making £1,008 a month, then £500 isn't that much. So then you'd have to see, okay, based on my lifestyle, is it sensible for me to drop certain things so I can then use that money as creative money to do what I need to do? Or do I continue as I'm going on? Because if you don't have that wiggle room, then that's where that conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, definitely.
But at the end of the day, I think it comes in the context of how much that person is making and what the net looks like.
Exactly.
You know, because if that person is contributing £500 and they don't have much left over, then obviously you have to do some more nitty-gritty work. But it's deciding whether that £500 is fair or not. Because if that £500 is an amount that, let's say, the family or household depends on, then it's sticky.
Yeah.
It's very sticky. If it's £500 that they don't completely depend on, but it's convenient because maybe sort of that person is the second breadwinner or the main breadwinner, then it's a different situation.
I hear you. And I think I definitely agree with what you're saying. But then the assumption comes that when this person gets this income that goes from 500, let's say, down to 200, now they've got an extra 300 that they're going to invest or use it wisely.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
Most of the time, they're going to get it, they're just going to find how to spend it anyway and be in the exact same position.
This is why they got people like you to explain.
So who's really in prison? Do you understand? So people are always making an excuse for, if I had. I remember when I was working, I was making £1,000 a month, and I said, right, if I make £2,000 a month, I'm living like a king. Do you understand? Then I made it. It was nothing. Do you know what I mean? Then you make 3,000, 4,000. It's not about how much you make, it's how you use it. And a lot of people are gonna use the excuse of, if I didn't have to give my parents this, if this wasn't holding me back. But you just find something else to do. You just being wireless at the front doing your thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And going on holidays and Ibiza and doing all this stuff. So there's always things to spend your money on. If that money is being spent to support your family, I think that's a just cause.
I think it is. And you sound very sort of like saintly saying all this stuff, but I think it comes to context.
Yeah.
So in this situation, if you know what your financial plan looks like, then maybe it's a different situation. if you're clueless and you're financially illiterate, then it is just an excuse.
Yeah.
So it comes down to, I think it comes down to not only perspective, not only sort of like your monetary status, but also your financial literacy as well.
Definitely.
And what you're looking to do in terms of your planning. So, you know, am I my mother's pension or my father's pension? I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
But not necessarily at the detriment where it's restricting me from doing stuff if I have a financial plan in place.
Exactly.
If I don't have one, then I've got no excuse. I shouldn't be moaning.
No,
you know?
definitely.
That's how I see it in my mind, at least.
I agree.
You know.
I agree.
But yeah, man, it's just, I just feel like I don't know about other communities, but with the black community at least, I feel like they get it hard because not at any sort of necessary fault of their own. Obviously, we have some very stubborn parents who are set in their ways. But if we're thinking about it, we're first generation at least. And they've come here looking for a better life, looking for a better way. You know, this is almost like a lottery for them, so to speak, hoping that, okay, we're in the UK, something is going to happen, something good is going to happen with my kids to at least set the financial footprint for my future. Because I guess in their minds, it's legacy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they won't describe it as legacy, but it's a sense of legacy for them.
No, I hear you. And for me, it's just one of them things that gets so sticky because I see it from the other point of view in regards to, you know, our parents came over here. They dealt with racist abuse. They dealt with being overqualified and having people that they were more qualified than manage them. They dealt with going to have to accept jobs where they're getting paid thousands of pounds less than what they're worth just because they're black. And they did all this so you didn't have to. Now you can go to work and you can get that job, and do you know what I mean? Not that there's still racism, but it's nothing to what they. Do you know what I mean? When they came, there were still signs that said no dogs, no blacks, no Irish. Do you know what I mean? So what my point being is that now you're at a place where you're earning all this money, and all of a sudden you say, "Oh, you're holding me back." Listen, I took those licks for you. I took that abuse for you to allow you to be where you are today.
Of course.
And so for me, giving back to my parents should never be a case of I feel restricted. Like you said, it's all in context of how much you earn. I just feel that a lot of people are not financially responsible. So this extra money that they want is just so they can now go on holiday maybe an extra time a year, or they can now buy Louis Vuittons and and that's what they're going to spend that money for. And so for me, that irresponsibility, I'd rather you do it and help and support your family. Yes, like you said, maybe your parents don't necessarily need that money for the household, but it gives them an extra £100. An extra £100 for my mum and
I don't think there's anything wrong with that stuff. I think we established this before. As long as you understand what you need to use that money for, that's fine. So because I think your parents, if they are completely dependent on you, or heavily, should I say, then there needs to be a buffer range. There needs to be a buffer range for them. There needs to be a buffer range for you. And I'm using the term creative money for whatever else you want to use that money for. And your parents need creative money. Because at the end of the day, it's true, they do. Because they shouldn't be seen as, you know, just there to cook, clean, this and that, if they do all of that stuff. They should be there seen as human beings who need to enjoy as well. So they are sort of like bearing the fruits of their labor. I guess what I'm saying is there needs to be a balance. As long as you have that plan in place. And this is where financial planning comes in mind. Rather than thinking, okay, I'm going to do this in a couple of weeks. What's your 2-year plan in terms of, I don't know, getting a property or clearing your debt or whatever it is, making sure that you can afford those things in the most sensible light. Because even if you can sort of, let's say for example, you are sort of ridden by debt or whatever it is, then maybe in the future, you can actually give more money provided to your parents and stuff because you've set yourself free of whatever and you have more creative sort of, let's say resources, capital, whatever it is, and that could make you more money. But that's if you're screwed on. That's if you're screwed on.
Definitely.
But if it's just for the case of just going on holidays and stuff, which there's nothing wrong with, I'm not gonna shoot that down. You have to bear in mind how that affects you and your family as well, and your parents as well.
No, definitely. I agree. I definitely agree. Definitely have that conversation, have the communication channels, do your budget, look at what you can afford. Like you said, if you're on £800 and you're giving 500, then you think about transport to work, food, like that's hard. Do you know what I mean? And so you need to have that conversation. And I definitely think as long as you can have that conversation, if your parents are not listening, then you have to vote with your feet. At the end of the day, the money comes into your bank account, and if you can't manage it, then you ride it, and you now have to use that as a motivation. That's what I try to say. Sometimes we can want other people to help us and other people to support us, and we should expect those people to do so. But because they don't, we don't use it as an excuse to stay in our situation. We use it as motivation to get out, and so we say, okay, actually, my parents are taking me out. They're stopping me being able to live and do this. What can I do? What book can I read? What job can I create? What hustle can I do? What can I do to create the income that will free me from this burden? Do you understand? And so rather than wallow in the pain of, oh, I don't have, let's see what I can create. And so when we can get to that mentality and start moving like that, that's how we can change our lives.
So in that instance, I guess, get into that mentality. Obviously, adversity is our first trigger for that. But then what's the next step?
Good question. The next step is always a plan, isn't it? It's always a plan. So once you've we're pushing forward. What is the plan? How long? What is the goal? What is the target? What do I need to do? So we have to research. There are things around us.
Course.
What can I do? What am I good at? What are my skills? It's about self-evaluation. What can I do better than the average person, or to at least to the level of the average person, where I know that's I can turn that skill into money, and go and do that. And it might mean evenings, it might mean weekends, but do it and free yourself.
You know, for most people, the answer is getting a new job. You know, I think sometimes people look to sort of entrepreneurship too quickly at times.
Yeah, definitely.
But really and truly, if your skills don't take you that far in terms of having entrepreneurial skills and stuff, maybe it's get a second job. Or maybe it's get an upgrade in your job. See how you can I'm not trying to make it out like it's simple to do or whatever it is, you know, but there are things out there, like if you want to do up your CV, there's a CV service that can enable you to improve your CV, or even your cover letter. There are people out there who can improve your interview skills as well. So getting those basics right to increase your base income doesn't only help you, but helps your parents or your family or siblings or whoever it is, because the truth of the matter is there are some parents out there who don't even have a pension, you know, because they haven't really set it up themselves. So they are literally relying upon you. Obviously, there's the state pension, but who wants what, 70 odd pounds a week? How are you going to survive on that? So at the end of the day, you know, it comes down to having that plan in mind and thinking about what you can do today to make sure you can have a better tomorrow. And that's the way I see it. So I think we've spoken about a lot of stuff here. It's come down to perspective. It comes down to realizing your adversity and developing a plan, as you said. And it comes down to just assessing your situation, I guess.
Definitely.
Is there anything you want to wrap up with?
I think you said it all, to be fair, on this one. I think that's it. Like, let's get out, let's get through it. There's always a reason. There's always an excuse. And it's not an excuse, even when it's the most valid reason. It can still be an excuse, and sometimes you just have to look past it, because only we can change our situation.
Of course.
And standing behind excuses and valid excuses. Look, there are people who have lost limbs and they're still making. They could use it as an excuse, but they choose not to. Do you know what I mean? And it's valid. If I'm people that have had sight and gone blind, and yet they could use it as an excuse to stay at home and do nothing, and nobody would ever judge them because of what they've been through. But they're not. They're out here. So you've got your ability to do what you can do, and you've got to get up and go and do that.
Boom. And on that note, we'll leave it there, man.